For decades, the default state of the Indian government was almost total opacity, inherited directly from colonial rule. The 1923 Official Secrets Act legally cemented this culture. Basic bureaucratic records were completely off-limits to the public. They were classified as the exclusive, untouchable property of the state. Under this legal framework, everyday citizens had no right to know how their tax money was being spent, or how government decisions were actually being made. In the early 1990s, in the dry rural villages of Rajasthan, laborers were being systematically denied their legal minimum wages. Local contractors and officials were faking the attendance logs, known as muster rolls, to pocket the cash. The workers knew they were being cheated, but they couldn't prove it because those exact attendance logs were classified as state secrets. So the workers changed their strategy. They stopped protesting for the withheld cash and instead began demanding the legal right to inspect the bureaucratic accounts. By 1996, these village protests converged in the town of Biaur, where workers campaigned for weeks under the slogan, "Our money, our accounts." This local success forced transparency laws in 9 separate states over the next decade, eventually pushing the central government to enact the National Right to Information Act in 2005. The working class extracted this tool specifically to dismantle the culture of secrecy that had protected bureaucratic corruption for a century. To make the law actually work, it established a first line of defense, the Public Information Officer, or PIO. This is a legally mandated role inside every single government department, specifically tasked with answering citizen requests. The law imposes strict statutory deadlines. A PIO has exactly 30 days to provide the requested information. If the request concerns a citizen's life or liberty, that limit shrinks to a highly accelerated 48 hours. If they miss that deadline, the enforcement mechanism triggers. The PIO faces a personal financial penalty of 250 rupees per day, levied directly from their own pocket for unjustified delays. Naturally, a corrupt official might try to use a loophole. Under Section 8 of the Act, the government can hide information by claiming it compromises national security or personal privacy. To counter this, the drafters included a failsafe, the public interest override. This mandates that even protected information must be released if the public benefit of exposing corruption outweighs the exemption. These specific mechanics made the RTI a legally enforceable audit engine powered entirely by everyday citizens. Operating at full capacity, the Indian public files roughly 50 lakh applications every year, using the law to secure basic rights like ration cards, pensions, and delayed wages. Journalists and activists also aimed the act at high-level corruption. Through RTI filings, they exposed the Adarsh Housing Society scam in Mumbai, proving politicians and bureaucrats had stolen luxury apartments originally meant for war widows. During the 2010 Commonwealth Games, RTI data proved the government had illegally diverted hundreds of millions of rupees in welfare funds meant for marginalized Dalit communities to build sporting infrastructure. For the first time in Indian history, the Indian public had the legal leverage they needed to successfully investigate their own leadership. The government could not afford the political cost of publicly repealing a popular democratic law. Instead, they opted to break its internal components through legislative amendments. The first sabotage arrived with the 2019 amendment. Originally, information commissioners, the watchdogs overseeing the law, had fixed 5-year terms and salaries equal to election commissioners to guarantee their independence from politicians. The 2019 amendment stripped those protections. It gave the central government the power to dictate the watchdogs' tenure and pay, forcing them to answer to the exact people they were supposed to hold accountable. The 2023 Digital Personal Data Protection Act introduced a second form of sabotage. This new act neutralized Section 8 by entirely deleting the public interest override for anything classified as personal data. Now, corrupt officials can use a blanket privacy shield to hide asset discrepancies, nepotism, or forged records, with no risk of being overridden by the public interest. If those legal loopholes fail, the system falls back on a third passive form of sabotage, administrative paralysis. The government simply starves the commissions of staff. The statistical reality is staggering. Today, there are over 4 lakh appeals pending across the country, trapped in commissions that are severely understaffed, or in some states, entirely defunct. This chart maps that extreme backlog. In the state of Telangana, based on current clearance rates, an appeal filed today has an estimated wait time of 29 years just to get a hearing. Delaying an answer for over a decade is functionally the exact same thing as legally denying the information. Transparency is not a permanent state achieved by passing a single law. It is a fragile structural balance that must be fiercely defended against a bureaucratic system that naturally craves the dark.